I'm sad, I'm lonely, and I'm suffering, he said. That is a very powerful admission for a man, because that is vulnerability, dude. That is a position people can take advantage of you, they can manipulate you, they can dominate you, they can embarrass you. That is not a powerful frame of reference for a man in scarcity. For a man in abundance, which if you saw my clips yesterday, you know why I'm using those words. But for a man in abundance, admitting where he is strength and power. Because you can't take from me the things that I say that I am, right? I'm in a place, I'm sad, I'm lonely, I'm suffering. Cool. You are where you are, dude. Now what do you want to do about it? Where do you want to take it? What do you want to do next? And see that, the words are information. The meaning, the energy behind it, that's where our power is. That's where our choice is. That's where our strength is. When we state a thing, it always amazes me, and I find it interesting when I'm in a group with men especially, and we're going to share stuff, things that have happened, things that we're working on, and guys will tell me, oh, that's great vulnerability. And I'm like, yeah, it's not. Not for me. Like, I understand how it could be perceived that way, and I totally get that. But for me, when I share parts of my story or my life, like, I'm sharing it to serve a purpose or to add value. It's not, this isn't vulnerability for me, because this is stuff I've dealt with, right? I've worked through abuse at 5 and 6. I've worked through, being kicked out of gifted math, gifted reading, nearly failing high school and having to do 5 years for 1 English credit because I didn't want to turn in newspaper stuff. Like, dude, you could have been out 3 years. You could have been out your junior year. But no. I got mono and depression and dealt with all like I've been through the seasons, and I've worked through to find the lesson and the blessing and what could I have taken away and how could I have showed up differently. And I share those things because I want to let other guys know there is a pathway, there is a vehicle, there's a way to get out of where you are. So for a man to say, I'm sad, I'm suffering, I'm sad, I'm lonely, I'm suffering, like, what a beautiful thing. And it could be weakness, but it could be strength. It's not about what we say, it's not about what we do. It's about the energy behind it. It's about the attitude, the intentionality. Where is our heart? Because show up time and time again in your heart. Show up for what's real and what's true, for where you are in your journey. That's the beauty, right? I have a friend, and she just posted earlier today about unexpectedly going through a breakup, and she hasn't posted about her podcast lately. And beautiful woman, lovely soul, absolutely deserves love and adoration. And I commented, just a little bit of moral support, and she messaged me to say, hey, things are where they are, and we had a little bit of a conversation. I was like, hey, when you're ready, bam, 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 bam. Like, here's top 3 resources to go check out. Here's reasons why. Kings love to provide, right? And that king energy shows up and says, I've got a lot of knowledge in this space, and I'm here to provide and serve you, because I know what it's like to go through a breakup and to be unexpectedly single, right? I got out of the hospital, second lung collapse. That night, like 2 in the afternoon, 11 o'clock at night, 11:30, she's like, I need you to move out, I need space. I was gone 9:30 the next morning with a mild case of pneumonia after 6 days in the hospital with a collapsed lung, my second one. And I get it. She wasn't ready to deal with, like, I could become an invalid or have long ongoing health challenges or whatever the story, and her dad's got some stuff and doesn't really take care of himself, and does she want to live with that with me, and blah, blah, blah. I get it. Now, it took me a long time to get there, because for the first 2 weeks, I was like, cool, we're going to figure it out. She's just in space, not really broken up. She's seeing other people. She's drinking a lot, which I wasn't allowed to drink. She's blowing off clients, and she had such an amazing work ethic. Oh. Blinding flash of the obvious. We're done, dude. And then right into the pavement. Like, I just was done. And I was living in my school, my martial arts school, for a while. I was living in the office, and just a horrible place, right? 2 years. 2 years, I was just emotionally, I was shut off. I could teach, and I could sleep, and sometimes I would eat, and I could bathe. Don't ask me anything else, because I just wasn't on that wavelength. I was so just dead inside. This was the woman I had planned on marrying, except I put all my money into my school, and it didn't work out with her, and she didn't want to have kids, but if you love someone enough, they'll change. That's not dysfunctional. It's totally fucking dysfunctional, dude. So for a man to say X or Y or Z, you got to get to his heart. You got to get to the truth behind the man. And for guys, just so you know, we move through stages, right? We mature. We have kind of gears that show up. And so there's a space a lot of guys get into. And my friend that posted about being sad, lonely, and suffering or struggling, I commented and messaged him. I commented right now. I haven't messaged him yet. That's later today. But I commented him, and when I commented, I asked him about a thing called the tunnel, right? Because for men, there's a stage called Prince, and there's a stage called King, and in between there's a tunnel. And part of the tunnel is exactly where he's at and what he's going through. And he did a 15-minute video, and he's talking about kind of where he's at, the struggles, the questions, the unsure, and why don't I fit in, and why this and why that. And it's like, as he's describing it, I'm like, dude, have you heard of this thing called the tunnel? Because it sounds like you're there. And part of the tunnel is an unraveling, right? Us as men, we define ourselves by our strength and our stability, by knowing who and what we are. And in the tunnel, it all unravels. It all just, why am I doing this? Right? And part of it, you got to understand the stage before, Prince. Because Prince is a man who's kingdom building, and he is just driven. He's compulsed to work. He has to build this kingdom. He has to make things happen. It's a 10 to 15 year process. Now, men usually don't start being princes until late 20s, early 30s. So if we start, let's just pretend 30, that means like he's not going to hit the tunnel till about 42 to 45 years old. And then the tunnel is anywhere from 6 months to 3 years. Questions, unsure, he thinks he's going crazy, honestly. And when guys are unsupported, it's a bigger mess. It's a bigger struggle. When they're supported, when they're in community, that changes things. Changes the conversation, changes the energy, because he knows he's not alone. And he still has to work out his answers for himself. He has to figure out in his own heart and in his own mind, he's got to bring those into unity and connect them together. It's a, you know, in my head, I've got Kingston Trail. I got to walk that Lonesome Valley. I got to walk it by myself. Nobody else can walk it for me. And that's the journey to be a man. There is loneliness there because there is a self-reliance. And part of going from prince to king, king is solidity. King is stability. King is, this is my kingdom. Here is who I am and what I provide. Do not ask a king to provide what he does not have. He just can't. He doesn't have it. But if you ask what he does have, he'll provide it and provide it and provide it. It's almost limitless. It's like women think that, you know, oh, I'm the queen. And it's like, okay, but if you're with a king, you really do have to energetically be a queen. You have to know how to receive, but not receive from a place of entitlement or justification. Receive from a place of appreciation and gratitude. And it's like, wait, what? There's a shift that needs to happen for women to be in that queen energy, to match that king energy, because the king is just, he's just a torrent of just giving, and so present and so powerful and so attentive. It's why a lot of times you have older guys with younger women. The younger women are better at receiving because they have less rules and less structure, and they're able to just go, this is awesome, I deserve this, and they can kind of enjoy it and have gratitude for it, where a woman who was there through the kingdom building, and she's like, you owe me, a-hole. I sacrificed and I raised your kids and I put up with all this crap. Now it's my time, it's due. And that judgment, that tinge, hurts the king. Because he knows he messed up. He knows he failed you. He knows how many times he fell short, but he had to build the kingdom. So guys, for you, if you're going to say, I'm sad, I'm lonely, and I'm suffering, or I'm struggling, as a king, that's ownership. That's integrity. That's power. But as a prince, that's fear. That's doubt. That's insecurity. Those are two very, very different places to stand. And that's why people want to jump to conclusions when they hear something, they say something. And almost always I'm curious and I want to know more context. Like, give me more of the web, because where are you? I got to know a little bit more. I'm not just going to immediately, oh, that one thing must mean that other thing. Like, a lot of stuff correlates. A lot of stuff connects. But causation is a little messier to figure out. what's going on inside this person's constellation, right? What's going on in their heart and their mind and their needs and their wants and their dreams and their desires and their maturity. Like there's a bunch of stuff that plays, lots of little dials and switches. This is why I'm so keyed in working with men, because it seems complicated, but it's actually not. It's just a couple of little dimensions, kind of an XYZ sort of deal. It's a little more than XYZ, but not very much more. The cool part is, as you start to pick up these pieces, men love to play games. Men are creative. So let's create games worth winning. How can you game your wife so that she feels warm, big, and happy on the inside? Because if she's filled to overflowing, what is she going to do? Is she going to keep that for herself, or is she going to flow back into you? Right? A person who gives will give because that is their nature. But if they are depleted, they will kvetch about it the entire time, which is Yiddish for bitching. But I like kvetch. But it's also what I call squeaky wheel, right? When somebody is they're depleted and they're just grousing and complaining. They're still doing the stuff they said they were going to do, but it's just painful for you or for them or for both. Okay. So that tells you they're in a squeaky wheel moment. Cool. So you now know you need to fill them up, or create opportunities for them to be filled up, right? Because it doesn't mean you fill them up all the time. Autumn wants to get a facial. She just hasn't been pampered in forever because we've just been, I've been tunnel vision and sequenced down. There's parts of me that's king. There's parts of me that's prince and kingdom building, right? It's a fun place to be if you can appreciate the journey. It's maddening and heartbreaking if you don't. Because people will disappoint you. People will have their own lives and their own needs and their own wants and their own stuff, because that's life. I wrote a story one time about a garden, and it's just everything going towards the sun. Not personal. Everyone's reaching, everyone's growing, and we're going to grow over each other sometimes. We're going to shade each other sometimes. Someone's going to do this, and you're like, hey, you're taking my sunlight. And they're not thinking about you, because they're thinking about their growth towards the sun. It's not personal, right? So, ultimately, guys, if you're struggling, that is the truth. Own that. That's where you will find your power. When you step into the things that you're afraid of, when you lean into your fear, that's where you find your power. And nobody can give it to you except you. Nobody can take it away except you. So when you lean into the fear, when you lean into the struggle, when you lean into the challenge, that's where your edge is. Challenge is doing it intelligently, safely. Doing it in a way that actually sets you up for future success. How can you really show up your best self? How can you show up powerful but playful but present? As a protector, as a provider, what's your purpose? What's your passion? What's your plan? These are big conversations, but they don't have to be complex, and they don't have to take a long time. The right question can nudge you. Little hinges can swing great big doors.